Yo, listen to this, it's Raising the Barber. Cut, dip, or chop, no ribbon.
It's nice to see you here. We finally made it.
It's only taken 6 months.
Unbelievable. Really, it took us 6 months and then randomly dumped.
Yeah.
See you next Monday. All right, man. I'm all in. I'm all in. I know you're very busy, very busy. And this is why, I wanted to have a chat with you because your business is pretty interesting. I mean, first of all, you can say to people what you do for a living.
So I'm Amrit Dhaliwal, the CEO and founder of Walfinch, which is a home care business, but I started franchising the business about 5 years ago now, maybe just over. And we're national coverage, about 34 locations, I think, all around the country, and growing. Hopefully get to about 50 by the end of next year. But yeah, that's me in a snapshot.
That's a nice and quick explanation of what you do for a living. It's amazing. Yeah. But now we're gonna step on the haircut. What do you want to do?
I don't know. What do I normally do?
Yeah, let's
blend it, make it look like lots.
I do my magic.
Fill in the gaps.
Oh man, I could potentially do it, but no worries. No worries. So, what's the reason why you started all of this?
So I'm 37 now, and I started my first business at 22. I left university. I studied economics and history, and I left there having completed this degree, and I thought, okay, I don't know what I want to do. I want to run my own business. I don't know what that looks like. So I started working for someone, worked in a headhunting agency as an IT tester for about 8 months, and I just thought I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I was talking to a manager at the time, and he said to me, Amrit, I want to run my own business one day. And I thought, this guy's, doing really well, and he's done really well for so many years. He's got, funds available to do it and all that kind of stuff. But he's telling me one day. And to me, one day means never, right? So if one day is either today or never, basically. And so I started looking around at businesses, and I thought, well, what do I do? I don't know anything, right? I'm 22, or I was 21 at the time. I've got no money, no experience. What do I do? And so I thought, okay, well, I've got a bit of chat. Maybe I can open a bar, and I'll start doing something like that. So I started looking at businesses that were available to sell, or buy rather. And ended up finding this place in Richmond, which interestingly was not a bar, but it was this Italian deli run by a guy called Angelo from Sicily. And I went in. We ended up negotiating this deal. I had no idea what the hell I was negotiating. I didn't know anything about wine or coffee or pasta.
You're like, okay, I got a bunch of money to lose.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So I got involved, and it was summertime, and in Richmond, I mean, literally in the summer, you can do anything and you will do well. It's just so busy.
True. Yeah, true.
And so the summer was there. I was like, this is amazing. I'm a great businessman. This is wonderful. The till is full, and life is good and great. And then the winter came, and the winter really came, and I was like, shit. So it was all very stressful, but I basically learned a lot about business, cash flow, people management. Most of the guys were, older Italian guys, in their 60s, late 60s that I was managing. So
loads of experience for them as well too.
Yeah, I mean, also they didn't want to be, managed by some 22-year-old guy that doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, right? So I had that whole thing to deal with, and I basically ended up doing this whole turnaround, made it from a deli into a restaurant. I opened another business there the following year, which was a tea room in Richmond. I won some business awards. I sold one of them, and then but I was working the whole time. So and now I'm sort of 25 almost. And I'm working 6 or 7 days a week. I'm working basically 12-hour, 14-hour days. And I know how to swear a lot in Italian at this point. I'm having lots of fun, but I'm just working tremendously hard. I met my now wife, my then girlfriend at the time. She's a dentist. Was in her family's been in nursing homes and older people care for years. And And so we're sitting there having a coffee one day, and my grandfather had come over from India, and we had loads of issues because he was, older, a bit more frail. The family wasn't in India, and we didn't want to get people into care for him, and all that kind of stuff. And so my then girlfriend says to me at this same time, she's like, "Look, have you thought about running a domiciliary care business?" And I was like, "What the hell is that?" I'm 25 years old. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she sort of explained the concept. The next thing I know, I've talking to all the franchisors around the country.
No,
and I bought a franchise within 90 days. I bought a franchise. And so at this point, I'm living in Buckinghamshire. My restaurant's in Richmond. My franchise business is in Oxfordshire. And so I'm driving from, 6 a.m. I get up, I go to the gym. Then I go to 9 a.m. I get to Oxford. I do 9 to 5, then drive 3 hours to Richmond because it's peak traffic, work there until 1 o'clock in the morning, drive home for 40 minutes, on the phone to my girlfriend for an hour, sleep for about 3.5 hours and start again.
This for how long?
18 months or so, maybe just under 2 years.
Because I think you were already ready to change.
For me, it was lots of different things. I knew I needed to do something else. I knew I needed to give more. I also wanted a different lifestyle. I wanted to propose to my girlfriend, and I thought she'd be crazy to say yes because I'm always working. I'm never around, and she's working like 4 days a week as a dentist and all this. And I'm like, what do I do? So I thought I need to rebalance my life, my business, everything. And it took me a couple of years. And I was eventually able to do this. And then next thing I know, I've got this business which started, again, terribly hard. I thought it was going to be easy, and it really wasn't. And at that point, I realized that home care was broken, franchising was broken within the home care space, and I needed to fix it. So I built this business up to about £1 million in revenue in about 4 years or so, 3.5, 4 years. Sold it in the 5th year. And then I started my own franchising business, trying to help entrepreneurs, that didn't know they were entrepreneurs, to move from full-time employment to full-time self-employment and change their lives. People that are from any industry. I've got people that are, from catering, from law, from banking, from retail, that come in and say, right, I want to start my own business in this space. Help me.
To make people life simpler, how would you explain a franchise?
So franchising is essentially being in business for yourself, but not by yourself. It is someone that, if you think about McDonald's, and you think about the system, they are teaching you how many seconds to cook the fries for, how many seconds after which you need to flip the burger. They're teaching you the whole thing. So that is exactly what we do. So we coach the franchisees through how to run a business, how to provide care, and also lend them the brand and do lots of work with the brand to sort of support that nationally as well. I mean, effectively, someone, yourself as a barber could come to me and we go through pretty intensive work training. If you've got the heart for it and want to do the work, we can teach you how to run a business in home care, and actually make a successful future out of that. That's, for me, it's about providing support to the average type of person, not just the top performer. Right? Franchising is all about the average management person becoming a great business person, rather than a great business person becoming a fantastic business person. It's because that happens.
Okay? Let's talk about this average business person. Average person can become great. What's missing between this and the great business person?
That's a really lovely question, Don. There's this wonderful book called Good to Great by a guy called Jim Collins. And essentially, he talks a lot about going from good to great. There's lots of businesses are good businesses. They run well, they're profitable, there's a good enough culture, everything's fine. And they're good businesses, but to be a great business, you need to get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. So that means that you need to have the right leaders. For you in this barber shop means you need to have, all of these chairs here need to be filled with the right people cutting that hair, that they're going to turn up on time, they're going to give you the right customer service, that that they, if you're off, as a manager, they can operate, in that sort of in a smooth way and do the right thing. So it's about having the right infrastructure and having the right people around you all the time, and always looking at that and saying, well, who would I not hire again? And if I wouldn't hire them again, why have I still got them in my business? It's hard, and
that's the worst part.
It's hard. It's hard because you get to know people. You like people. I've had to fire people over the years that I really like, but I'm like, you're not right for the business anymore. You were 18 months ago, but you're not now, and that's okay. And it's a horrible thing, emotionally as well, but it's the right thing to do for the business. You've got to look at the business, in my opinion, as like a bottle of red. It's a living thing. It's a whole different thing. You leave it open, it changes, and then. And
there's one thing as well, if I can add, maybe you got more experience than me. You always have to give second chances to people and also help them to grow. Yeah. Because if you don't really do that, you're missing the secret gem. You know?
Yeah.
That's what you.
Look, the question you've got to always ask yourself, the three questions is: do they get it? Do they want it? Can they do it? Right? If they get it and they want it, but they can't do it, well, we can't do it, right? So it's a capacity issue. So if they don't have the capacity, is it coaching and training? Or is it that it's just beyond them, And actually, maybe just because someone is a great barber doesn't mean they'll be a great manager of other barbers. And maybe their sort of top bit is just to remain as a great barber, and that's okay. There's nothing there's no failing in that. It's really understanding people. When I meet franchisees, we speak to maybe a couple of hundred people every month, and I will maybe meet out of those guys 4 or 5 of them myself, and out of those I'll probably say no to 50%. Maybe they got the money and everything, but I just don't think that they're the right personality for it.
It makes total sense.
And so otherwise
also because you have to keep your business nice and clean with a good reputation.
Yeah.
So it's your first, I think if you approach someone, it's already done. I see you as a potential franchisor, like someone who can look after also my brand.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. And I think that's it. You've got to have that vetting process. It's the same in many ways with you here. If you wanted to get a sort of another manager in here or something, and you'd go through that really hard vetting process, you'd get them in the shop, you'd see what they're like with customers, you get feedback, it's the same thing, right?
It's definitely, I think one of the secrets is try to read the whole book earlier.
Yeah.
Because you can be excited at the beginning, the person can be nice, whatever, but then you have to see the future somehow.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you give too much trust to someone, and the day after is gone, or is not really compatible with the others. He has a mask on it, right? That's what happens. Maybe on a bigger numbers, something is completely different. Also, because if we dive into your business model, we're talking about an endless growth. How have you managed this growth right now?
I mean, it's really, again, it comes down to the right people around you. There's only so much you can do on your own, right? And I kind of started to understand that earlier. I mean, I'm still on the journey.
You're never available. You're always busy. You're all over the country. I see you once every 3 months.
You have to just keep doing it. And I think, but the key thing is get the right people around you. If you've got the right people around you,
the closest ones.
Yeah, that's it. Well, and also if you hire the right people, they will then hire the right people under them, and so on, right? Sure. And that goes all the way down to the cleaner, right? So it's then saying, well, because actually in your business, the cleaner's damn important, right? I don't want to go to your barber shop if it's. I like coming here. Why? Because it's nice, it's clean. I get the same thing every time. I know what's going to happen, which means that you've done the right thing with the next guy. The next guy's done the right thing there, and so on. And so the how you get growth for me is, one is focus on getting the right people, but 2 is the other thing, focus on the revenue generative thing, right?
So numbers.
Focus on the numbers, focus on what's going to bring revenue in. And I think this is the thing that we get so stuck in businesses on, this very nuanced, this light here, this light switch here, and the lighting and whatever. But actually, if it's gonna bring revenue in, great, let's focus on it. If it's not gonna bring revenue in, it's just admin, right? And really focusing on that. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate business, and really selling pasta, selling care, selling haircuts. We're still selling. We're still having to figure out what the pitch is and get in front of enough people, get the word of mouth going. We still got to be selling. Because if we're not doing that, then nothing's happening. Then all of the other stuff is all nonsense.
I mean, the most successful brands are the simple ones, who keep like the core ideas nice and tight, and they don't change for nothing.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
Then the rest is just branding and whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to be consistent. It has to be worth it, because otherwise, if something is not right, you see it from the very first start. That's it. It's all about that.
And this is the thing. I mean, and also having a very clear brand message. So we've recently just gone through a relaunch of our brand and really focusing on wellness for older people, aging well, longevity. Thinking about, I had a bodybuilder on my podcast recently. He's a UK champion, and talking about muscle mass for older people. People in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s he trains with. And saying, right, okay, well, I need people to build muscle mass, because if you want to tie your shoelaces when you're 90, you're going to need muscle mass, and it deteriorates. But, and I think really just having a really clear message. For me, the message is simple. We're focused on making people's life better, not just living longer, but living better. And that's it. And everything else is a byproduct of that, right?
I was lucky to have one of my guests, Lee Mullins is the owner of Bulgari Gyms.
Oh, nice.
A workshop.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about. As simple as it is, you just need to work out well, have a healthy lifestyle, to be able to lift your nephews forever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. If you feel like alive, you feel energized, is what you need in life, right? How do you provide the services? Because now we were talking about the business side, right? But how do you provide the services to the people in need?
So I think that comes down to, again, getting the right people. So hiring the right care staff and saying, okay, are the support team the right people? Can they do the right job? And how do we train them? So getting the right people in that are doing it for the right reasons. Some of the best people are people that have been family carers and have no experience as professional care workers, right? And because they're people that have cared for their parents or cared for, their neighbor or something, or loved ones. So they're often, I find, the best type of care workers. So not experienced care workers, those guys, because it's all about heart for me, right?
Interesting.
And I feel like that about business in general. It's all hearts and minds. So you need the two things working together. So you hire the right people, you then train them really well, and then you inspect what you expect, right? You spot check them, you then say, okay, you're really good at this part, but you need some more help on this part, and we do that work. And then it's kind of getting out and saying, right, we're going to get in front of an older person, really understanding their needs. What is that? Is that need, my partner's died and I just want someone to hang out with me on a Tuesday afternoon and play golf, because I used to do that with my partner? Is that I need someone to come in and give medication to my mum, or a sandwich to my dad, and because they're not capable of doing that anymore, or forget, and so on. It could be as simple as stuff like that, or it could be as complex as someone dying at home and end of life care at home. So we do a whole wide spectrum, but I think the key thing comes back again to having the right people, good people, the right people, are trained well, vetted well, not just bums on chairs and getting the job done, but people who really care about it.
That's great. Now, obviously you got 34 branches or franchises, but what's the number of people working right now for the whole?
I think we're maybe at about 11 or 1,200 people around the country, if I'm not wrong, give or take. That's probably about right. And that number, I mean, if we didn't grow as a number of locations, I think that number would probably end up tripling in the next 2 or 3 years, just because as businesses get to maturity, they end up taking more people on, because a lot of these businesses that we've got are younger businesses. But yeah, I mean, so I think that's probably about kind of average. I mean, a sort of decent quality business 5 years in, I'd expect them to have 100 staff or so, but in this space, care staff. I mean, not all of that is salaried people. A lot of that is your care staff, with maybe about 10% of that as salaried office staff and so on. But it's all people that you've got to manage and treat well, and take to the Christmas party and all
that's what I was thinking.
Right?
Like 1,200 people at Christmas party is a lot.
But they're all individual. So because it's franchise, it's the local. It's if you think about this shop and your other shop, they go out for beers separately, right?
No. We do it together. We are like very small number. Like, and imagine 1,200 people. Obviously, it's not all people working for you.
It's all around the country as well.
I bet you got your closest friends around you that you got to go party. For Christmas.
We always we put on a conference every year for the franchisees. So for the business owners,
nice.
We tend to do it around this sort of time. So it couples up with it's a learning experience. It's an award ceremony. It's fun, but also it's a Christmas party as well. So it's always quite fun, right? Happened by accident the first year, and I thought, this is a good idea, right?
What's the next step for next year? Have you got anything would you like to do for your business? Any improvement? Anything you feel like you could change?
I think there's always stuff. I mean, my entire job is just constantly looking at what could we do better. Always looking around the corner, and then before it's a problem, I've got to try to fix it, right? So at any one time, I tend to have at least 3 projects on the go with stuff that we're doing. Some of that is around automation, business systems and improving that. Some of that is around marketing type stuff, and always looking at that and saying, are we doing enough, the best thing, and so on. And some of that is just thinking about, okay, well, what's working really well? So sometimes what I like to do is I just go around the country, and I tend to nowadays get the trains more. And then what ends up happening is there'll be some random care workers around the country that will often just pick me up, and I just spend 15-20 minutes in the car with them, and then just listen, and say, okay, so tell me what's going on, because I'm not on the ground anymore, so I need to hear about it, like what's working well for you, because it's all good and well, me talking about it in terms of theory, or franchisees or managers, but what about you on the ground? What's working for you? I was in a car the other week with a lady, and she was really cool. I mean, she was like very experienced care worker, been working with us for about a year in one of the home counties, and she was picking me up from the train station, taking me to the office. So I had this meeting there, and she's talking. I'm just making loads of notes, and I'm just like, I had like 20 minutes. Maybe I spoke for 3 or 4 minutes, and she just spoke for the rest of it. And I was just, just taking lots of notes. I was like, great, this is cool, and actually out of that, one major action's come out for next year. It's just like. I'm like, great, why pay expensive consultants when the answer's right in front of us the whole time?
Just go there, have a chat with your people, and you'll know the truth.
Yeah, check it out.
As long as you're open to know the truth.
Yeah, that's it. You got to listen.
There's another one. You got to be able. You got to learn to listen,
and you got to hear the truth. I say it's because it's really hard for me to say, oh well, that was my idea.
Yeah.
And you're telling me it's crap, and it's well, maybe it's crap, and that's all right. So let's fail fast and move on.
Bravo. That's I think is crucial for any kind of business. Trying to humble yourself down, go down to earth, even though you just lost touch with reality with as many as they did, because you do. Obviously,
of course.
It's
Life,
organic.
right? Yeah.
But then when you just try to understand what's going on, you accept your mistakes or something is wrong, you can go on.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's it. I think if I own the barber shop, I just come in for a haircut every so often, right? And be like, cool, just, or go and cut someone's hair even, and just do it, right? And get in there and just hear what's going on, actually. Yes, that's the best one.
Yes, sir. What's the area that you cover? The whole UK?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the most concentric one?
We have a lot around the London area.
Oh yeah.
Because that sort of naturally happens. And then a lot, in all the sort of shires, the home counties, Oxfordshire, Hertfordshire, Buckinghamshire, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot around that. We've got a little cluster in the Midlands, a couple in the north, one in Edinburgh, and there's a couple by the coast now as well, down south. And so it's really sort of spread out basically.
And you get to see all of it. Have you seen at least once?
I try to go at least once a year to all of the branches. Then I tend to see everyone at the conference. And then I tend to, we do a lot of events across the year for people to come to. So I tend to go to almost all of those, which means invariably, and then we go to a lot of events. I do a lot of public speaking and invite people there as well. And so I end up seeing most of the franchisees a few times a year. And then I tend to try to go to the branches about once a year. Because even if I do one branch a week, that's that amongst everything else, it's a lot. But then I do tend to see most people at least 4 times a year, I think, on average. Some of them a little bit less if they, some people, maybe they can't get to some of our events as much and so on. So that can be tricky. But invariably, I really try. And then I'll pick up the phone randomly to people, and the power of just that, just being on the phone. It's like,
you're going to be doing stuff. Yeah.
It's you just want to hear it, speak to people, right? Because the way I see it, we're providing a service to the franchisee. I want to make sure that they're okay, they get it, and they're happy, and because I'm not providing their support directly, my team is. So I'm like, hey, is that going well? What's the problem?
It's so let's say you've got this business, right? You've had many. Did any of them went down the hill quickly?
Yeah, I think any business, any franchising business will tell you the same. Even the big guys, McDonald's and all these guys, right? I'd be really surprised if all businesses have failures. And I think but the franchise businesses, percentage-wise, have a very small rate of failures. I think there was a study done recently that showed that, in the first 5 years, a standalone business is more than 60% likely to fail, whereas a franchise business, there is a very small percentage that are likely to fail. The reason being is that if you work with the franchisor, most of the time, A, you probably won't fail, because they're working with the systems, but B, they can help you sell the business. But with all of that and all of the systems and all of the right feelings and all of that kind of stuff in play, 2 things that you can't control. Number 1 are people. Sometimes people have life stuff that goes on and you can't change that. Maybe they've got a health issue, they've got, family passed away or something, life stuff that happens, and they're like, well, okay, they stop performing. And number 2 is sometimes your own mistake. We now go through a really hard vetting process and say no a lot. When you're early, you don't know what to say no to. And so you might take some bad eggs on and say, well, okay, these...
That's what we've been talking about before.
And that's it. And so I'm really now selective. So we say no a lot, so that the rate of failure goes down, because often you can try to ascertain, well, okay, if these 5 things over here, if they don't have the leadership quality, they don't have the finance, they don't really want to do this, they don't really care basically about it, they probably aren't going to survive, right? So I think there needs to be a process in which you try to do that whole piece. I think that process is really important.
That's great. And going back to what we were talking about before, the importance of stay focused. What do you do with it? How do you manage your life with all this happening around you?
My life, as you know, because of you're part of it, right? Maybe you're only part of it for 1 hour a month, but you're part of it. But everything is scheduled. Everything. My time with my kids is scheduled. My time at the gym is scheduled. My time with my Netflix is scheduled. Everything is scheduled in the diary, literally in 30-minute blocks throughout, from about 6 a.m. till probably about 8 p.m. Everything is scheduled. If it's not in the diary, it's probably not going to happen. Be that a phone call, be that hanging out with friends for a drink. I'm going out for dinner with my buddy tomorrow, but that's been in the diary for 14 days. And I'm like, if it's going to be...
How can you feel... I think at the beginning, I'm not messy. I can plan my life.
Yeah.
But I just want an advice. How can you feel natural by scheduling your life?
It's hard.
Yeah,
and I didn't used to do it.
Work on that.
But the problem is that if I didn't do it, and if I stopped doing it, then I can't do as much. I get through a lot of stuff in a day, like a lot, right? I wear lots of different hats in a day. I'm personally involved in like 4 different businesses in any one day, because there'll be, a conversation that might be relevant from one conversation is relevant for 2 different businesses, but at very least I'm involved in that many things in one day. And I might go from congratulating someone, disciplining someone, to a business development piece, to a finance discussion, to a whole different thing. So I need to time block things and say, I can do this. I would start with work if I was you. I would start with 2 things. I would start with work and gym. Right? Schedule those 2 things in, because you can do that, right? Your diary is scheduled here. I know that because I work with you, right? So I'm scheduled in, and you're like, great. Then I'd schedule in the gym. And then I'd schedule in sleep time, right? And say, because that's super important. Schedule those 3 things in. Then I'd schedule in, the bigger events, birthday parties, big hangouts with friends, and so on and so forth. Because as you get older, girlfriends, kids, family commitments, all that. So you can't do it. So then you think, next month, guys, we're getting together on this date. This is what we're doing, and it becomes an event, right? And then you schedule in the day-to-day and say, that's my morning's done, my day's done, my evenings at the gym done, my big ticket items once or twice a month done. Now I'm going to think about, my girlfriend or my wife, for example, I schedule in, we go, I'm like, I'm super busy, right? So if we go for a walk and it's not a planned for walk, I'm going to be on the phone the whole time, right? Invariably. And I'm like, hey, this was so nice. Not for you, but I got some fresh air and someone to walk with, but you just heard me on a call. But I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, great. So next Friday afternoon from 3 p.m., I'm going to have no meetings. We're going to go out. We're going to we just had a new baby, so we'll take the baby with us. Thank you. And we're going to go and have, we're going to do X, walk around the shops. We're going to have an early dinner. We're going to be back. We're going to sort out the kids and so on. And it's focused time because I care about it. If I'm going to see my parents, I'd love to see them more. They don't live that far away. I've had them come over and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just working the whole time. So schedule time, Then I can focus because I care about it. And if you care about it, you'll make time for it. And you just start small, get bigger. But I really believe in that. I think if you want to get through a lot, you gotta organize your time because everyone's only got 24 hours, right?
How do you manage your bad habits, though?
They're still there, I'm terrible. They're still there, but you just kind of work on it, and you fall off the bandwagon, you'll do the 6 a.m. gym, you'll do it for 3 months, and then you'll say 2 weeks you were terrible, and then you're like, no, I'm kind of going to give myself talking to, but the thing I like to do is I write every year around this sort of time, and when pre-kids, I used to I used to literally book myself away for one night, but I now find it harder to do that. And by find it hard to do that, my wife doesn't let me.
Translated.
Translated to we've got 3 kids, you're not going anywhere. But what I tend to do is I take an afternoon now, and it used to be a night, and hopefully we'll get back there, where I think about what my 10-year plan is in life, and it's business, personal, kids, finances, everything, physical, body and all of everything, health, wealth. I write that down, my 10-year goal. I then say, break that down to what's happening in the next 3 years, next 1 year. And then I break that down into, if I want to do this, I want to get this much fitter, drop this many percentage of body fat, get this much better with my business, spend this much more time with such and such person in my life, this much less time with such and such person in my life, and all of that. I write it down. And then I break the 1 year down into 90 days and say, okay, the next 90 days I'm going to do this. I'm going to change this habit. I'm going to go to the gym instead of 3 times, I'm going to go 4 times. Instead of having 2 cheat days a week, I'm going to have 1 cheat day a week. Instead of working until 7 p.m., I'm going to work until 5 p.m. I'm going to do 5 bedtimes instead of 7 bedtimes, or instead of 3 bedtimes, or whatever it is for my kids. And break it down into numbers. So most things you can break down into numbers, right? It's not perfect, but what it does mean is you can track that, because you're scheduling everything that's in your diary, right? So you can track that. And in 90 days, you can come back and say, well, how successful was I at that?
So you kind of auto criticism on you.
Yeah.
You feel like always like you're the the worker of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like,
you're always on a check.
I'm always on a check, and actually, I'm really highly critical of myself. I'm like, I don't know if that's good or bad. It's probably terrible, and I'm sure if there's any like life coaches out there, they'll be like, why are you so unkind to yourself? But I feel it keeps me on track.
I think that the result matters more than everything else. Now, how you get there, it just doesn't really matter for others. It's very personal. Everyone has his own balance in life. You feel like you feel the right balance for everything you can do. I'm sure there's something you will miss in your life or stuff, because but as long as you don't have no regrets, and you feel like you're doing the right thing for your family, for your business,
that's it,
and for your future, more than ever. Dude, you're still young, so
honestly, I looked at and I was just sort of getting my head in the game. I looked at this plan I wrote 5 years ago.
Yeah.
About how my life will look in 3 years' time. And actually, it didn't take quite 3 years. It took probably about 4.5 years. But actually, most of those things, they were ticked off. Most of those things, right? I didn't fully learn Italian. I did some lessons. I can swear really well. But most of the things were there. And I think actually, if I hadn't written those down and been really deliberate about it, would I have achieved it? Probably not, because then you're leaving everything to chance. And hey, maybe I would achieve 70% of it. Maybe that's good enough, right? But I don't think I would have done as much. It's like business planning, right? If you run a business, you'll probably do a business plan. And you'll probably look at it every month, every 2 months, 3 months, a year, whatever.
Indeed.
How much time do we spend on that in our own lives? How much do we plan our lives? If we're doing holidays or whatever, I've got loads of kids now, and I'm like, if we want to go away, it's planning is required in that, right? And thinking time and school holidays and all this stuff. If I want to hang out with friends.
Everyone says to me, man, I forget about scheduling my haircut. I'm like, man, this is one of the few things you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
Do why don't you think about yourself and think about any other thing, like scrolling on Instagram? The half an hour you spend scrolling on Instagram, you can come just look after.
And that's it. Scroll it here, man.
Treat. Yeah. That's the one thing I never get. We often think about many other things but ourselves.
It's so one of the things I'm doing in 2025 is I'm working with my PA, and that's the other thing. I think getting someone to help with that kind of thing as well. So even a virtual assistant, you can get someone for a couple of hours a week to full time or whatever. Very useful. And just again, when we're talking about staying in the revenue generative space, anything that's non-revenue generative, pass it on. Right? And how many more podcasts could you do if you just had someone else calling Amrit and saying, when are you coming? Can you come tomorrow? Let me fill in 3 other people at the same time. And so you're not then doing that along working on this.
Yeah.
You're chucking someone else in. And maybe that costs you, £15 an hour to do but actually in those 2 hours that someone spent, they've done way more than you would have done. And it's a really focused on you then turn up here and there's 4 podcasts instead of 2 or something. So
that's what you should do.
But next year, one of the things I'm doing is working with her to then say, right, okay, my whole year, every third Friday is this, every third Wednesday is that, every second Tuesday is that, you know, and you're scheduling out a whole year basically to say, well, okay, now I know what the repeat things are. I know I need to go into these businesses this many times a month. I need to then go around to each branch once a year at least. I need to do these conferences, these 25 conferences that I'm going to speak at. I know the dates of those. You know, these conference trips I'm doing, boom, boom, boom. You know, all of that stuff is there. And then I think, well, okay, here are the times I invariably will try to do 80% of the school drops and picks for my kids, because I think, you know, there's only so many years that they're going to care about, man. Like, you know, but all of that needs to be in the diary, man. And I'm like, okay, cool. So my team knows that, hey, I'm probably not going to get anywhere before 10 a.m. because...
Do you ever stop thinking?
I find that really hard. I don't. I find that really hard. I try to meditate in the gym. You know, I find that's quite a good time for me to just think about that. Or when I'm, you know, and I really, now I'm very deliberate when I'm with my kids, I try to switch off. I leave my phone out of the room where I can. If I'm out with my wife, you know, I try to be present. I find it hard because we'll be talking about something and my wife can see my eyes just click. She's like, someone just said something and he's now got a whole new idea in his head, you know, and I'm like,
it goes away like,
she's like, oh, something clicked, you know, she's like, come back, you know, and I'm like, oh, no, I'll think about that later. So I really try to be present because it's so easy I'm obsessed with work, right? I'm totally obsessed. And so it's so easy for me to I could be like in that the whole time.
The one last question I want to ask. I'm 27, right?
Yeah.
So, this 30 years old mark is so big in front of me, right?
I found it so hard. I found it so hard.
How did it work for you?
When I was 30, like turning 30, oh God, I mean, I'm 37, right? So like now 40's ahead of me and I'm like, oh my God, you know. When I remember when I turned 30, my wife threw me this big party, but I was broken inside, you know. I was, oh my God, I was supposed to be retired by now, you know. I think be kind to yourself, he says after everything else he said, you know. I think be kind to yourself but again, write it down. What do you want it to look like? You tell me, you know, if you don't mind sharing on the podcast, what do you want your life to look like at 30?
Oh man, 30. You know, when I turn 30, I just want to work hard, but for myself.
You want to work for yourself?
My own business.
Your own business? Okay.
I want to have my own business, my own things. I want to be able to have a simple life without thinking about the price tag.
Yeah.
Or like, what if I want to open a second business?
Yeah.
You know?
So okay. So the first part is you've got the income bit, right? So you want to increase that. You've then got the freedom bit. You want a new bit. You want to start your own business because that's your personal piece, and then you want the freedom of doing whatever because you can come and go and book your own time. What about, you know, life stuff, family stuff, you know, girlfriends? You've got a long-term girlfriend, I think, right?
No, I'm single.
Just for everyone's... right. So what about in that space? What do you want to do in that space?
Man, honestly, I'm not looking for... I'm looking to spend time with my family.
Yeah.
To be able to go back to Naples. I wouldn't say like twice a month.
Twice a month, right?
Quick one also because I don't really care about like... is the quality that matters, right?
So now let me ask you this, right? So you got 3 years.
Yeah.
What action are you taking right now to do that?
I'm working hard.
Yeah.
Trying to make sure that things could go the way I want. Trying to find the right place to open, whether it's London or in any other country. You know, I feel like I could do it anywhere I want as long as I have the right stability, the right mindset. Yeah. That's all about that.
So for me, and this is right for me, but it might not be right for you know, it might not be the right thing for others or whatever. You know, but for me, I'm all about prolific, not perfect, right? You know, let's get on with it and let's give it a go because I'm going to try, then I'm going to fail, then I'm going to try again, I'm going to fail again, and I'm going to try again, and this time it's going to be kind of okay, and then I'm going to try again, and it's going to be better, and then better, and then better, and over the next 10 years, you got like, you know, imagine. You're working till you're 50 or 55, and we've got 20, 30 years, right? You know, that's just so much time. You've got loads of time, right? And so all I would say is figure out the number. What do I need, right? So what does a shop cost to start? I've got rent rates, I've got, deposits, I've got kit out fee and so on. So that number is this much, 100 grand, whatever it is, right? I can get a loan for this much. And then I need the rest, which is this much. I've got this much, maybe I can get an investor and they can help me with that. And I'm gonna, my point of difference is gonna be this. And then I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to give it a bash, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to do it, and I've got 3 years, and I need to come up with 100 grand, or whatever that number is, to start the business and put the first brick down. I'm going to just do it. Maybe you can do it with an investor, maybe you can do it on your own, maybe you can do it as a remote business to start with, you're gonna, right, I really want that, but actually what I don't have is 100K, I don't have an investor, so what can I do? I can speak to 100 people, 20 phone calls a day is like 6,000 phone calls a year, right? So I can make 6,000 phone calls, right? And out of those 6,000 phone calls, one guy's gonna invest 100 grand, right? Most people that have the money to invest are time poor, but cash rich. So, they're like, hey, I'd love to do that, but I can't. So let me give you the money. You've got experience. You've got, track. Maybe I can do that. The other thing I would think about is then saying, well, okay, if I don't want any investors, I don't want anyone else involved, and I've got X amount of income, what can I do to stretch my income? Could maybe, so I'm working 9 to 5, what's happening 5 to 9, right? Maybe I can then go to someone's house and say, right, here you're coming in for a £30 haircut, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to give you a £50 haircut. But you don't have to leave anywhere. Hey, I just spent £5 on parking right now, right? So actually, and I've got to come out and all that stuff. You come after hours and do it at my house, maybe it's better for me. And I'm like, okay, so then I can do 5 of those, 10 of those, 50 of those, or 100 of those a month. And then I'm going to get another guy to come in and start doing the same thing. And it's going to be my client base, but I'm going to take a cut. And then I'm going to save that and then invest that into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And in 3 years' time, I'm going to start my shop, So that's it. And just figuring out how. Most of the time, if you want to do something, you'll do it. Right? If you had to do it and it was life and death that you had to start a shop in 6 months, you'd probably figure out how, right? One way or another, you'd figure it out. So
it makes complete sense.
Let's do it. Basically, when I was 22, I was screwed, right? I was like, oh shit, I've now taken this place on and I actually can't afford to pay the rent. So I just figured it out and it was really hard, and still, I'm often in that situation. I'm in that situation now where I'm in this massive market, but I'm one of the smallest players. And I'm like, okay, so everyone else has got these huge marketing budgets. What can I do, right? How do I differentiate myself?
Welcome to Raising the Barber.
Welcome to Raising the Barber, So it's that. And I think just do it, basically. Get out there, do something, take action. If you take 0 action, you'll get 0 result, maybe less.
Bravo.
Yeah?
I mean, what a honor to have you here, my friend. Thank you for being here, really. I appreciate your effort. Obviously, you're a very busy man, but I had a great time, really.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
I
inviting
have
me.
a fear in the future.
Grazie mille.
Always keep on going because you are your future.